Right. Yeah, we are now live, getting ready for Phil LaMarr. Phil LaMarr. It's going to be an amazing time, guys. Tune in, joining, tell a friend to tell a friend. We are going to now be talking to one of Hollywood's greatest voices, right? I mean, it's such a privilege and an honor. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be part of this. He's with us right now. He's already joined right now, and I'm going to add him anytime from now. So as many people as possible, please join us right now. It's going to be a swell time with now. Hey, 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 hey. Hello. It's gonna... Hello.
Hey
Right. Hello. How you doing, Phil?
there. I'm doing good.
Oh,
Doing
I can
good. How are
hear
you?
you and I can hear you.
Can you
Great,
hear me
great,
okay?
great, great, great. Yeah, I can hear you now. Good, 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 good,
Oh, great. Yeah,
great.
I know. Always so worried about this. Now, you've had a nice
I can
long day.
imagine,
I
bro.
was talking to Rudy.
Whoa, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're talking to Rudy, right?
Yeah, how was that?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was very, very insightful, amazing time with Rudy. I always spoken to Rudy earlier on, but I'm so honored to be doing this with you. Um, for the African audience, a lot of us here are so a lot of them here are fans here over here. Can you hear me? I can't seem to hear him again. Hello, hello. We've lost Phil here. We'll try it again. We'll try it again. Let's try again. A little people are like, oh, what's happening? Don't worry, guys. He's gonna join us. Hello.
Hey, sorry about that. Had a
Yeah.
an issue.
Uh,
But
Not a
now,
problem.
can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. I can hear you. Great. It's so good to meet you. Finally, you're an inspiration, a major inspiration to a lot of us here, and of course, we can wait to hear from your uh wealth of knowledge. So yes. So I'm gonna go straight to it. There are a lot of questions here, for you,
Okay.
but I'm gonna go straight to it. So the first question is, what is your ideal inspiration as a voice actor? Um, do you watch shows, or you have a favorite cartoon, or you read a book that inspires you? What is your ideal inspiration? Because I know I watched a video where you mentioned that there's, which I agree with. You said that there is no exact way to get into the industry, which I definitely agree with. But what exactly are things that inspired you, right?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I don't know that I have a good answer. Um, the ideal inspiration, I don't think that exists. This is
Mm,
something,
mm,
this is a job. Being an actor is something you
mm,
do because you must.
right.
The
Mm-hmm.
inspiration is internal, and it has to be.
Mm,
There are so many
mm,
obstacles that
mm,
if you're out there looking somewhere else for the
mm-hmm.
engine to drive you over those
Mm-hmm.
obstacles,
Mm.
you're going to.
Right.
And it's interesting because I mean, obviously, there are performances I watched as a child, and there are certainly
Mm-hmm.
actors. You know, I remember Sidney Poitier, Denzel Washington,
Mm.
watching anybody. There's any work, even be it a children's book, be it
Mm.
an act performance,
Mm. Mm.
anything that moves you as a
Mm.
viewer is going to inspire you as a performer
Right.
because
Right.
it sets the bar in your mind. I want to make a performance that has an audience respond the way I responded to
Mm.
this, you know.
Wow.
And
Mm.
and the more you live and the more you go, you know, I don't know if anybody else has had this, but you go back
Mm.
as an adult and watch something you watched as a kid that you
Mm-hmm.
loved.
Yeah.
You realize it's not that good,
Right.
you know.
Right. Right.
Oh, you know, and as you grow, and certainly as you grow as a performer, your bar for what moves you changes,
Mm.
and things move
Mm.
you in different ways, you know.
Mm.
Um,
Mm.
but and especially as a voice actor, to me, there is no difference between a performance I do on a microphone versus a
Mm-hmm.
performance I do on camera. You
Right.
know,
Right.
it
Mm.
it's all acting,
Mm.
and my job is always to make it real for an audience,
Mm.
whether on stage, in a cartoon, in a movie. It's
Mm.
not, it makes no difference.
Mm. Wow. Amazing, amazing, amazing. It's so, I mean, there's no ideal inspiration, but everything should inspire you. Everything should inspire you as a voice actor. That is what you just said to us now. Yeah.
Mhm.
So how did you delve into animation? Voicing for animation? How did you get into that? How did you come across that? What is your story?
Sort of happenstance. Um,
Mm.
I was, you know, performing, doing comedy. I did a comedy show called MADtv,
Mm.
and we actually did animation on that show.
Mm.
Just as a little thing
Mm.
on the side. I didn't really think
Mm.
anything of it, but
Mm.
I'd always had an affinity for voices, for accents, impressions,
Mm.
um,
Mm.
and you know, and people said, "Oh, you have a nice voice." Okay, so somewhere in the back
Mm.
of my head, I always
Mm.
thought I should try voiceover.
Right.
But
Right.
certainly, when I was starting out as a performer,
Mm-hmm.
that was not really a job.
Mm. Mm.
You know, where
Mm.
there was not enough work, you know, as
Mm.
cartoons that was something you
Mm.
could conceive of making a living doing.
Mm.
You
Mm.
know,
Mm.
I mean,
Mm.
to me, that's like, you know, I only want to do TV comedies. It's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
I want to do
Mm.
that. I want to do this. So
Mm.
after I left MADtv, I made a concerted effort to try to, you know what, let me add animation and
Mm.
commercials
Right.
to, you
Right.
know, my career.
Mm.
Because the thing is, you never know what is going to
Mm.
be successful in any given week, month,
Right.
year, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm.
so, you know, I couldn't just go, well, I'll get on another sketch comedy show and do that. I don't
Mm.
know that I'm going to get another one.
Mm.
But then I started out, I got very lucky. I started working with an agent named Kelly Garner, who was young and hungry, and
Mm.
starting out his voiceover agency at the same time I was starting a voiceover career, and it all sort
Right.
of worked. And I got
Mm.
very, very fortunate. One of my
Mm.
first shows was Futurama.
Right.
You know,
Right. Mm.
anytime
That's the one.
you start a career working with somebody like Matt Groening, the man who did The
Mm-hmm.
Simpsons.
Simpsons, yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. That is amazing. Wow. So that was your first major animation.
I had done some smaller things before that. And what else? There was an HBO thing, a fairy tale sort of thing, and a Cool Like That Christmas, just little one-off things. That was my first really big show.
Show. Wow. Okay. So I've been your fan from like forever, and I've watched a lot of your cartoons and animations. And there's something I noticed: your sounds. How do you create them? Like, what do you? Is it? So let me put it this way. So when you want to create your sounds for your characters, do you most times use a vocal director? Is there a vocal director that helps you, or you just come up with these sounds?
Well, usually the process is it goes in stages. First, the creators of the cartoon will have a description of the character. They will send that out, and that's I get the audition. So basically, at first I'm alone, and I do my version of what I think that character might sound like. And if it's close enough to their idea, then they bring you in, you meet them in person. They say, we like what you did. Can you adjust this, change that, make him younger, make him a little more aggressive, any sort of direction. Part of that is to make the voice exactly what they hear in their heads. And the other part of it is to test you as a performer and make sure you take direction and you can, because there are a lot of people who can audition very well. You could spend 5 hours in your house coming up with that 2-word audition, and they're like, he was great. But if it takes him 5 hours to do 2 words every time, we cannot work with him.
Right.
And so the final voice is a combination of what I bring and what the creators hear in their heads, and then we sort of meet in the middle.
Right. So it's a blend of what you bring and what the creators, having their heads, or what they hear in their ears. Wow, fantastic. Somebody asked the question on the live chat here saying, do you have any particular work that you are especially proud of, or that makes you nostalgic? But I feel like it's everything that you've done, but do you have any? Do you have anyone that you're particularly proud of, that makes you so that you miss a lot?
Well, hey, any job that ends, I want to come back.
Right.
But as far as things that matter to me personally, I'm very, very fortunate. I've worked on several shows that not only were fantastic pieces of art, but made by really brilliant creators, and gotten to work with enormously talented people. I mean, I got into on Futurama, which was an amazing cast, and we got to do that for 10 years, off and on. I got to work with Family Guy, which is one of the biggest comedy shows. And Seth MacFarlane is a genius. I've gotten to be part of the Star Wars world, and as a comic book
Justice
person,
League as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, as a comic book kid growing up, to be the Green Lantern on Justice League, to work with Bruce Timm and to work with that cast. I mean, to this day, I consider all of those people my friends, and that all of it is just so wonderful. And I have to say, any one of those, and and several more. I mean, I worked with Adam Burton on Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, just some really, and obviously Genndy Tartakovsky on the cartoon Samurai Jack, which is
Yeah, Samurai Jack is actually very big here. A lot of people
Oh,
love,
really?
a lot of, especially animators love it. Actually, here in Nigeria, they love Samurai Jack a lot. You know, so
Is it dubbed?
well, I think it's, you know, we have different channels where they show those things, and then we have foreign channels that they show here on our cable network. So they show some of these things back to back there.
Okay. No, it's funny
Right.
because when you gave me the invitation to come speak, I was like, it is so rare as a voice actor that you are
Hmm.
asked, you know, to speak to people overseas, because most of the American animation gets
Hmm.
dubbed. It's America.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Outside America, yeah, yeah, yes. Especially the Spanish side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But because a lot of us speak English here in Nigeria,
Right.
right. So they get, well, most of the things that we have Cartoon Network here. We have Disney Junior. So a lot of us watch those things, especially some of us that are in that industry. Yeah.
But
So
no,
the next.
if anybody ever asks, did anything good come from colonization? I will say one thing. They
Right.
play Samurai Jack in Nigeria.
Right, I love that. Okay, so now somebody just asked this, but I don't know if you might have an answer for the person, but he says, are there any opportunities for African VO talents in the animation industry over there? If your answer is yes, how do they explore such opportunities? Because there are a couple of talented people. I mean, a lot of people who have logged in today. So, for example, at the VoiceOver Academy, we have about 250 graduates that have
Wow.
graduated. Yeah, yeah, and we have some amazing voices. I mean, some crazy animated voices. But so a lot of times, most of them ask this question: how do we get our stuff known internationally? How do we get to that international market? Because we know, everybody knows LA is the home of animation. You know,
Right. Well,
right?
that's an interesting question. I mean, obviously, I've never been to Lagos, so I don't know what the specific opportunities are, but anytime there is television, there is radio, there is animation, there are going to be voiceover opportunities. And it's funny
For
because,
sure.
especially for anybody listening who's a graduate at the Voiceover Academy, you should be especially attuned as you go around or as you watch things listen for the voices, because most people don't even notice where they are. But they're for the commercials you see on the TV, or a commercial on a radio station, or perhaps a recording that you hear on a train. All of
Right.
those are jobs that someone got. Now, as to whether locally for animation, that's a very good question. And I would hope so, because as we're finding now in the coronavirus period where everything is locked down, animation is one of the few realms of entertainment that
Right.
is still creating, So the work can be done from anywhere and shipped to anywhere. So I'm hoping that there are young, creative animators who are trying to make something there in Nigeria.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, in Nigeria, we have one of the strongest animation markets, apart from South Africa. South Africa has a very established market. But when it comes to content, we have stories, good stories. We have good animators. I mean, shout out to Afrocentric. There's a company called Afrocentric. We have Comic Republic. We have spoof animations. There are a lot of them like that, and they're doing so great stuff. They just need more exposure for this. But so are there any tips on platforms where they can get to audition to have that exposure?
That is a good question. And I have to say, unfortunately, I'm old. So as far as what is the hip new platform that everybody like, man, I don't even have TikTok on my phone yet. Although, hey,
right. Well,
why
TikTok though. That's
why does somebody start doing animation on TikTok? you know, dub your own voice.
Right.
But as far as the best, you know, because there are new platforms coming up every day, and I'm sure one
Right.
of those is going to be, you know, a great launching pad. For me, as a performer, I would recommend the main thing you do is focus on building your skills. You know,
Right.
it's like
Mm.
it's like if you're an athlete, you want to be in the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
The Olympics only come around every 4 years, but you
4 years.
don't
Yeah.
wait. You don't wait
Mm.
till the Summer Olympics to start working out.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm.
You work every day to get better,
Mm.
stronger,
Mm-hmm.
broader.
Mm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm.
if there is a accent that
Mm-hmm.
you hear and you can't do
Mm.
it, why not?
Mm. Mm.
Listen to it, work on it, you know. Or if there's
Mm.
something you see, you know, a cartoon or something that, or it strikes you as really good. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
stop. Could
Mm.
I do that? And what will
Mm.
it take for me to get to a level where I could do that?
Mm-hmm. Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Right. Somebody here says 4C voices. That's for everybody that is tuning. 4C voices says they always post animation opportunities on Twitter. So
Oh,
please follow 4C voices. Shout out to 4C voices for that. They say Twitter is a great platform for opportunities. So you see, guys, so they have opportunities for animations. All right. So are there any advices for maintaining a good vocal range? Are there things you should eat, things you shouldn't eat, things that you should do, vocal warm-ups that you advise, you know, for maintaining because you've been in this industry for, if I'm correct, about 30 years now.
just about.
Wow,
Yeah.
well, that's a lot. That's a long time.
Yeah.
You know, so how have you maintained that that your vocal range? Just, I mean, it's just flawless, man.
Well, I mean, everybody's instrument is different. Um,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Most of the practices, I mean, personally, I am not a trained singer. I have
Mm-hmm.
friends, you know, like my friends Kari Walgren and Jennifer Hale, who are beautiful singers. And I
Mm-hmm.
find that a lot of people with a singing background transition into voice acting very well because they are used to using their voice. Generally speaking, the work
True.
to do on animation is not that hard
Mm.
on the voice.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Some of the video games can be,
Mm-hmm.
that's a different thing. Video games have a lot of
Mm.
screaming because basically
Mm-hmm. Right.
most of the games you play, somebody
Mm.
dies.
Mm.
And most of the time, if you record a video game session, it is you alone.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time when you record animation, it's a group of you all working together to make roughly 30 minutes of animation. With a video
Mm.
game, there's hours that you are
Right.
voicing. And so they
Mm.
get you in there alone. You're spending 4 hours alone just talking. And
Talking right.
even without the screaming, that can be hard on
Mm.
your voice. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if anybody's ever had to, you know, let's say you go out for the evening
Mm-hmm.
and you're with your friends talking for 3-4 hours. At the end of the
Wow.
night, you feel.
Mm.
To me, the best way to take care of your voice is always be warmed up, you know, prepared. Some
Right.
people do vocal warm-ups. I don't. Personally, I just
Mm-hmm.
make sure I get a good, solid, warm meal in the morning and
Mm-hmm.
sure that I'm awake and using my voice for a couple of hours before I have to go to work.
Mm.
A lot of people think, well, I get up in the morning, my voice is very low. That's the best way. No.
Right.
Nope.
Mm.
Because,
Mm.
you know, you wouldn't jump out of bed and suddenly, you know, start playing a sport. You'll pull a muscle that way. You have to make sure that you're loose. And when you're loose,
Right.
not only will you have your low register, you will also have your high register, you know?
Right. Mm.
You know, so you'll have the full range. That's my advice in terms of, you know, the voice itself.
Right. Right. Okay. Thank you for that. So somebody says here, how has it been in Spider-Man 2? And can you be a Doctor Strange too?
Well, that's actually very funny because that was in, I think, 2002, and I had a really tiny part. But like I said, I'm a comic book superhero person from since I was a little kid. So to be just a part of Spider-Man, was a joy. Although it did trip something in my head because before that I had done television, maybe a couple of movies, little movies here and there, but then I had just started doing voiceover, and my voiceover work had begun to grow.
Right.
And I think I just had my first child, and voiceover, the hours are nice. It's not 15-hour. So this was my first movie after starting to do voiceover, and we were there for 2 weeks, 15-hour days. I'm in the movie for 2 minutes, and I began to think, voiceover is actually a little easier to do. But it's not as good as the big movies.
But a lot of people, I think you should talk about it a little more, because a lot of times people think that it's just so easy. You go into the booth, and sometimes when you talk to people here and you tell them this is serious work, they just tell. In fact, I was still talking to a client today, and she was saying, "Is it not just for you to read it? Just read it, and that's all." I'm like, "Oh man, she doesn't know what she's talking about." So can you emphasize on the work? The work that this entails.
Okay, now here's yes, thank you. This is something that is very important to me. This work we do, it may not necessarily always be physically strenuous, but that does not mean it is easy. Brain surgery, there's not a lot of heavy lifting there either. But not everybody can do it. Because the thing about voiceover is there is a precision to it, and especially the ability not only to create something compelling, but also to be able to repeat that.
Right. Fantastic.
A lot of people, I think, say, "Oh, I want to get into voiceover. I talk all the time. Why shouldn't I get paid for it?" Not the same thing. And also the fact that, and this is something that took me actually a few years to realize, that reading words off of a page without sounding like you are reading words off of a page is not easy. Most of us, when we read, most people, when they read, they flatten out. They the words they are saying. That's human nature. But the ability to not only make the words sound alive, but to do it on the spot and to be able to control how you do it, that is what's difficult, And so, something that I always want to remind people, even though we say voice acting, actually the acting comes first. You are acting with your voice, and you have to be able to take word. And I'm talking about even if you are doing commercials or announcements, anything, you are telling a story. You are making those words matter to the people that are hearing them, and that is a performance.
Right. Okay. Somebody asked a question here, which I felt was somebody said yes. Hi, Phil. This is Sarah Johnson saying, awesome to have you here. Samurai Jack was my favorite cartoon as a kid. Still have it. My question is, how do you stay in character when playing multiple characters in one animation?
That's interesting. Sometimes what I will do is do all of one character at a time, then switch over to get to the other character. And most of the time, that's about making sure that vocally you stay connected.
Right.
It's not like you're going to forget the character, but for instance, I remember there was an episode early on in my career when I had to play. It was an episode of the show Static Shock. Sorry, I have to plug myself in. We did an episode where the character I was playing, Static, who is a teenage boy, superpowers, and I also was guest starring as Green Lantern.
So I was doing the character of Static, Virgil Hawkins.
But I was also playing John Stewart. Now, those two voices are very far apart. And to make sure, because when you're doing a voice like this, and you switch
to something like this, it's very easy for this voice to not get all the way up, and suddenly it's about middle range. Oh, wait, this is a little lower than it should be.
But when you do it up next to this, you may not notice the difference. So what we did to make sure that the character stayed pure was we recorded all of the Green Lantern lines together all at once.
Wow.
Then do a reset and make sure, and then recorded all of the Static Shock lines.
Wow.
And
wow.
Now, granted,
see, I'm shouting here.
Now the thing
I'm
is,
screaming here.
very impressive to see people jump back and forth. But when you're doing the job is not to impress the people in the room. The job is to make the show as good as it possibly can be.
Right. So somebody said, oh, wow, amazing answer. Would networking at conventions for a voice acting opportunity be more realistic than looking for voice acting opportunities online?
No.
So
I personally, I don't think so, because generally speaking, the people who are at conventions are actors. And actors don't hire actors. Producers don't hire actors. It's more likely you're going to find producers with jobs available on an online forum.
Right. Right.
Because I don't know very many producers who say, I have a cartoon I want to do. Let me go to a convention and see if I find some talent.
I see you. I get that.
But I could be wrong. But that's generally my experience.
Yeah. I think for that, networking is just good for it helps you just understand more about the industry and things that are happening and getting in touch with everything that is happening. So yeah, I mean, they have their own advantages. The conventions may have their own advantages, but I get what you mean in terms of networking online.
Yes, well, and also, I mean, networking with other performers can always be valuable, but mostly in the sense of what you can glean from them, what you can learn, and advice. It's generally not likely to, like I said, I never hire actors, but I can tell you my experiences, and that can help you in decisions you have to make later.
Right. Somebody asked a question from Puerto Rico here. His name is Mauricio. He says, what steps would you recommend for a voiceover artist that has done a lot of commercial work and corporate work that wants to primarily focus on character of animation work? So if you're used to doing a lot of commercial work, for example, I've done a lot of commercial work, maybe just a few animations, but a lot of commercial work. So how do you switch? What advice would you give to somebody who would like to do that now fully?
So I sat down with a friend of mine she's an amazing commercial voice artist. She, made a great living, and she wanted to do more animation. I was doing a lot of animation and wanted to do more commercial work. And so we said, hey, let's compare notes. And what we found is we were doing pretty much the same thing. I remember I sat down with a piece of commercial copy and I read it to her, and she said, who are you talking to? And I said, nobody, I'm the announcer. She said, no, who
are you saying that too? You say it differently
Mm.
to your mother than you would to your buddy at the bar. And I'm like, oh, like it?
Right, right.
And,
Mm.
you know, so the skill sets are very similar, but we have to get our minds
Mm-hmm.
in line.
Mm.
And the
Mm.
biggest difference between commercial work and animation work is range of tone. Generally speaking, in commercial work, there is a little less, more narrow range of tones, you know, especially like if you're doing announcer work, you know, whereas in animation, especially these days, there are little kids cartoons that have a certain feel. Then there's, you know, dirty adult cartoons. And a lot of things in between. Some are very realistic, some are very crazy, you know, and being able to identify the tone of a piece when you're handed it for an audition can
Right.
make a huge difference. Because if somebody walks in thinking every cartoon is like 1940s Bugs Bunny, but the creator wants theirs to sound more like, you know, a modern, you know, Simpsons cartoon where things are more, you know, the characters sound more like real people. You've eliminated yourself from the job just by that first thing out of your mouth. So it's important to know the landscape of the industry that you're stepping into.
Right. Wow. Wow. My brain is full. So, so there's another question. Somebody said, how do you handle rejection? So you go for auditions, they don't pick you, but you know that you have something, you know, you just have that voice, you know, there. Do you have any advice, you know, for people when they get rejected? Because in this job, you get a lot of rejections. So how do you handle such times, you know, when, you know, and pull yourself back up again to also always go for auditions and all?
Well, you know, it's funny because a lot of people think, oh, the worst thing about being an actor is all the rejection. The truth of the matter is, there isn't that much rejection. I mean, generally speaking, they don't call you to say no. They just ignore you. So
Right.
the thing is, if you're lucky, you're getting a lot of rejection because that means you're getting a lot of opportunities. You know? And to me, the most valuable thing is to think of, because not every job is yours to have. And
right.
factors, you know, that lead to whatever their decision is. And it's not necessarily about how good you were. You know, you can do an amazing performance, but they decided they wanted someone younger. They decided they wanted a woman. They decided they wanted something else. It has nothing to do with you. To me, I look at every audition as an opportunity to perform. And, you know, and each of them, I say think about what I call the intangible steps, because there are times you audition for something and you do a great job, but that is not your job. It's like, but somebody involved in that process hears what you did and responds to it. And then let's say they're the assistant on that job. Next year, they have their own project. And they remember because you did such a good job. It's like, hey, can you bring, for instance, well, now this isn't a rejection story, but years and years ago, I was part of a comedy troupe. And we performed for free. We didn't get paid, but we would do improv comedy shows. And one night, there was a celebrity guest in our show that we do, and the guest was Quentin Tarantino. And I performed in that improv show with Quentin, and I just did my best. I had fun, you know. And he remembered me when he was casting Pulp Fiction. even though
Mm.
it was not, you know, I wasn't going up to him and saying, hey, can you get me a job? Can I be in your next movie? I just went in there
Mm.
and did my best work. And it became an intangible step toward a success that I didn't even know was coming.
Wow. 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 Man, so much wisdom here. Somebody asked right now, do you, he said, oh, I don't know, he or she says, do you ever look back on your work and regret some of the choices you made, like a line you wish you had done differently, you know, or something you said differently, or you performed differently?
I mean, occasionally, I mean, nothing is perfect. There's always
Mm-hmm.
something you could have done different.
Mm.
But, and that's actually, I think, why it's harder to really enjoy your own work rather than other people's work, is because you do that. You go, oh,
Right.
and also you're remembering everything that went on when you made it, as opposed to just watching the story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, there's a little bit of value in assessing your work. You know, if if there was something you didn't know how to approach, but you did your best,
Right.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
there's certainly nothing wrong with figuring out a better way to do it next time.
Mm.
But you
Mm.
can't let that, you know, stop you from enjoying, you know.
Right. Right. Right.
But no, there's definitely things that I look back on, you know, something that was a bad day, and then I have to watch that, you know, sketch or whatever. Like, but what I've learned is when something goes out there, it's no longer
Mm-hmm.
about you. It's no longer about how you felt
Right.
about your performance. Because that's the thing.
Right. Right.
You can love your performance, but if other
Mm-hmm.
people don't, then how successful the performance
Mm-hmm.
was it?
Great. The ear of the consumer. I always tell my guys at the academy that there's something called the ear of the consumer, and there's a way the consumer listens. It's different from the way because a lot of times we are so caught up in our talent, and when we listen to our voice, I'm like, man, yo, my voice is great, you know. but the consumer doesn't think so. Yeah, yeah, you know. So there has to be a balance such that when you're reading with the fact that you're hearing you're reading from the perspective of who is going to be listening. Okay.
Well, and
Another
also,
question here.
also,
Yeah.
let me add to that. So much of what we do is a collaboration, and
Right.
how
Exactly.
you come off to the audience isn't just about your performance. It's, you know, the other voices in the piece, or how it is animated, or, you know, how they cut it together. A bad editor can destroy a great performance.
True. 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 Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. There's a question here. So this person says, should you do several demo reels for separate categories like games and kids cartoons, or should it just be just a field demo, just combining everything, say commercials, games, cartoons, or should you just have separate ones for separate gigs and all?
That's a really tough question. I mean, personally, I feel like if you have the range and unfortunately have the money to make multiple demos, it would be best because, you know, if somebody is casting video games, and let's say they're not that seasoned and experienced, they may hear one voice they like for your video game, but then they might get confused if they hear you do, you know, a commercial read that's announcery. It's like, oh, but we don't want that announcery thing. It's like, no, but remember the thing you liked. I mean, so multiple demos make it easier for you to get past the people who are not creative thinkers. But if you do not have the resources for that, then make the best demo you can. You know, I starting out early on, I made sure I had an animation demo and a commercial demo,
Right.
And, you know, but that's tough because there are so many different kinds of commercial voiceover now. You know, so how do you know you're going to have the right one? So, but you know, you try to have your demo give as much range as possible, and you have to trust that the people at least have some brains. You know?
Right, right, right. So what is the place of branding when it comes to this kind of work that we do? What is the place of branding? Because I tell people a lot that, you know, branding is very key. You know, separating yourself. What would you say about that? What is the place of branding?
Well, now that again. I'm gonna repeat. I'm old. In my day, branding was what you did to cattle. So, I honestly, I don't know. I don't in what I do, which is mostly television animation. I don't know that branding is as important as it might be in a lot of other fields. You know,
Right.
promo. You know, because
yeah.
I mean, and I say this to people, and a lot of times they don't believe me. Animation is one of the few places where you always audition, no matter how long you've been doing, you know, because the thing is, you know, if I'm, you know, working on, you know, if somebody likes my work from Futurama, that doesn't mean they're just going to hire me for their cartoon, because they're not going to hire me to do the same voice. They need to know that I can do the voice of their character. So we always have to audition, you know, to make, because again, it is such a collaboration that, well, which voice is he going to do now? Now, mind you, reputation goes a long way. And if you get a reputation as someone who can do multiple voices, who can take direction, who is fast, efficient, a nice person to work with, that's a great brand to have. But as far as putting a brand out there just sort of in a public way, I'm not sure. I honestly don't know.
So first of all, I mean, when it comes to branding for you, it's something that has to be internal first. You know, your reputation. You must make sure that your reputation is, you know, quite. You're somebody that is able to work with people very easily, and you have a good reputation out there. And from there, you can, you know, then broaden out and do what you want to do. Okay, so we have a character that would like you to play, right? It's called Captain Soapwash. Before we end this call, it's called Captain Soapwash. It looks like this. You know, I don't know if you can see it.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Let me see.
Yeah. So
wait, I have it on.
Can you like come up with a voice for that? Let's see. I want to see it. And that drawing was done by a guy called KR. KR is on this call right now. Shout out to him.
No.
He drew that character. I just spoke to him. I said, this is what I see in my head. This is what we're trying to sell. So he just came up with that. Shout out to you, KR. I'm sure he's listening to us right now.
Okay.
So yeah, let's see what you come up with, right?
Well, see, now this is funny because, you know, a few months ago, I did a video for Vanity Fair where we did something like this, where they just gave me a picture of a character and said, what voice would you do? And, you know, you have to look at the character, because normally, if this were an animation job, I would be working with Carol, you know, and I would ask him, okay, Carol, what do you think? Who is Captain Soapwash, you know, a big, powerful captain? Because he looks like he's perhaps not that strong or that certain about things, you know. Hello, I am Captain Soapwash. We are living in a very uncertain time, but The one
Wow.
thing I know is that we can defeat COVID-19 if we all work together
Wow.
and if we wash our hands.
Wow.
I forgot my mask. I'll be right back.
Wow, 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 wow. That is amazing, man. Phil, man. You are something else, man. You are something else. So is there any other thing you'd like to tell us? Because we so that Instagram doesn't just close up on us. Are there other tips that you feel that we should
Well, we talked about the acting of it, the professionalism.
mm-hmm.
The only other thing I would say is, well, it's funny. This is something my friend D. Bradley Baker, who has a website that I think is a great interested in getting into voiceover or really any sort of creative. His website is called iwanttobeavoiceactor.com.
Right.
And
I want to be a voice actor.com. Right.
I want to be, and he's an amazing talent, but he's the one who always talks to me about, we are performers and we have, a bag full of tricks, keep in mind what you do best, what your strengths are, and don't be afraid to go with your strength.
Right.
A lot of times we go into these casting situations from a mentality of need. Oh, what do they want? I want to read their minds. You cannot read another human being's mind. But what you can do is look at the material you are given and say, what is the best performance I can conceive of with this material?
Right. Right.
And 9 out of 10 times, your best will lead to a better result than wishing and trying to read people's minds. So that's what I mean by go to your strength. And if there's a question of what do they want or what do I do best, go with what do I do best. Right.
Fantastic. Wow. This is such a learning. I mean, this is a master class you've given us right here, Phil. I'm telling you, bro. I really hope to meet you very soon. I was supposed to be in LA last year, but my visa didn't come out on time. Yeah. I was in Atlanta last year. Yeah, 2019. Yes, I was in Atlanta for VO Atlanta.
Cool.
So I come from a lot of those things. So hopefully, one of these days I get to meet you personally and bring you to Nigeria as well. I hope you're willing to come to Nigeria. You should come to Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time.
I've been to South Africa, I've been to Zimbabwe, but Nigeria is still on my list.
You're gonna come to Nigeria. I promise you. You will come to Nigeria. We will fly you down by God's grace very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this invitation.
And I always wondered, you went to Yale and now you're a professional voice actor, man. That's amazing. How did your parents like? How did they feel like? Like Yale.
I'm very lucky. My parents were very supportive. Although it's funny because it seems a weird path, but it was at Yale that I discovered improvisational comedy, which I think has been a big part of my ability to take something, that someone hands to you on a page and make a quick choice about a character and then perform it. I think those skills dovetail and work together. So it is not a very common path, and certainly not one I would have thought of, but it worked out.
Right. Wow. Thank you so much, Phil. I hope we can do this again very soon, and of course live. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, We love you all the way from Nigeria here. You want to give us a shout out there?
Shout out to Voiceover Academy from John
Yeah.
Stitt and the samurai known as Jak.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to keep talking to you online. Yeah, have a wonderful day ahead. Right. Cheers.
And you stay healthy and stay safe.
Yes, sir. Stay safe. Peace. All right.
Peace.
Yeah.